Crunch truck out of Spring, Texas. He'll take on Bad Medicine, Don Van Loo out of the state of Missouri in round number 1 in our first round pairings. Bigfoot, Ron Bachman, will go against the Warrior, driven by Lupe Sosa. We'll also see Taurus with Eldon Depew aboard going against Jim Harrington and the Boss Gator. Yes, at the head of the show, you did see Hammer Time, Dan Johnson's truck. But look what happened in qualifying. Over the cars he goes. The rear end comes up on him, and things come out from under the truck. He's out of it. He lost the entire front end. He will not be in first-round action. But Bad Medicine will be there. The big Dodge, driven by Don Van Loo, going against Rob Grossman and King Crunch. Now here in the Superdome, it's a horseshoe track. They must go around, turn, and come back. Over the cars they go. They have a slight hill after the turn. Into this turn. Things looking good for King Crunch. He looks over to see what Don Van Loo's doing. Van Loo hits that first obstacle over the cars. And although it's not pretty, Don Van Loo wins race number 1 of round number 1 of Monster Truck Challenge. After this turn, that little bitty hill there sets him off to the side. He overcorrects in steering, goes across the finish line first, bounces around, and Don Van Loo will move on to round number 2 of Monster Truck Challenge. They were even after the turn. King Crunch a little out of shape, and he just could not catch up to Bad Medicine. Your win, Don Van Loo. He'll go on to round number 2. And King Crunch, he's going to have to work on that turn. Goes Don Van Loo back to cool things down as he prepares for round number 2. But we're in round number 1 action here at the Superdome in New Orleans. And here's Ron Bachman out of St. Louis, Missouri. He's piloting Bigfoot. He'll go up against Lupe Sosa and the Warrior. And this should be a war between these two trucks, Bigfoot and the Warrior. New Orleans, the Superdome. Waiting for the green light. A turning course. There they go. Side by side. Bigfoot has a wild ride, but look at this Warrior's all over the track. You have to take his foot out of it to negotiate this turn. Ron Bachman takes the Bigfoot board around and through. And Bigfoot gets an easy win over the Warrior. Lupe Sosa all over this track, bouncing up and down. Your winner is Bigfoot. The turn was where it all happened. Ron Bachman knew what was going on, came out of it, corrected, went into that first little hill and over the set of cars, and he had no idea that the Warrior was having so much problems way back there on that turn. You can see the difference right here. Look at that. Bigfoot is over and around and through, and Warrior is just having to stop and overcorrect and overcorrect. He just can't get things right on that steer. That cost him a race. Here's Eldon Depew. Eldon taking over the driving duties in Taurus.
Well, Eldon, how did things go out there today?
Everything felt real good. You know, the truck's handling good. The far corner down there is a little slippery. You know, wants to slide a little bit.
Any problems at all with your vehicle?
No, we're checking it out now. My crew member's checking out, but I think everything's 100%.
How's it look for the rest of the race?
Looking good. I'm ready.
And the world champion Taurus had better be ready because he's got stiff competition coming from Jim Harrington and Boss Gator. They're staged, lined up, ready for the green light. And Taurus off the line. Eldon Depew takes the world champ around. Meanwhile, all sorts of trouble on the other lane in Boss Gator. He's having lots of problems in that far lane, and I think they're mechanical problems. Your winner, Eldon Depew, and the world champion, Taurus. And it is all Jim Harrington can do to get Boss Gator across the finish line. A great run for Taurus. He negotiates that turn well. He's having to steer, whoops it around over the little hill, and into the winner's circle. Taurus, your winner. in the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. And that's round number 1 of Monster Truck Challenge.
Looking at this engine, you can see it's a little bit different than the one you would find in your own car or truck. The bottom of the engine, the block is a V8 configuration, just like lots of cars and trucks have. This particular engine displaces 557 cubic inches, so it's probably a little bigger than one you would run in yours. Working your way up, we have aluminum cylinder heads on this engine, and you would have an intake manifold. Seeing this engine also has an intake manifold, but above that, it's where it starts getting really different. Instead of just the carburetor, this engine's got the supercharger on top of the intake and then the injector on top of the supercharger. We run these because in the last couple of years, we've switched to alcohol fuel. The biggest reason being alcohol makes a lot more power than gasoline does, and it burns cooler while it does it. So when we made this switch to the injectors, I'll kind of explain how the fuel and air get mixed and end up in the engine. When the throttle is hit inside the truck, these 3 butterflies open up, which allows the air to get sucked into the supercharger. You can't see them, but inside there's 8 nozzles that actually inject the fuel in with the air. And once they get injected in with the air, they mix inside the supercharger, which is basically a big air pump. So when they all come out mixed at the bottom, they're under pressure. They get forced into the cylinders, and it produces a lot more power than it would if it was just naturally aspirated. Once the fuel and air are burned in this engine, they're pushed out into the exhaust just like they would be on your car or truck engine. The main difference being the size of the exhaust on this. This particular engine has 8 individual pipes, roughly 2 1/4 inches in diameter. The pipes need to be this big because of the amount of burnt gases created by the engine. Because of the size of this engine and the fact that it is supercharged and runs on alcohol, it uses a tremendous amount of fuel. Whereas a gasoline engine would burn roughly 14 parts of air and 1 part gas, an alcohol engine burns 7 parts air and 1 part fuel. Because of this, it burns fuel at, like I said, a tremendous rate. In a normal run, we would burn anywhere from 5 to 8 gallons. In fact, even idling at the line where we're trying to get staged, the engine consumes roughly a half a gallon a minute just idling. So as you can see, it would be really hard to take this thing for even a 5-mile drive down the road because it would burn 30 or more gallons of fuel. The oil we use in the Monster Truck engine is the same oil you could put in your car or truck. The only difference being, whereas you would use 5 quarts of oil, these engines use 9. On changing the oil, you could probably run on an average of 3,000 miles before you change your oil. Whereas these engines, we have to change our oil about every 12 runs because of the alcohol contamination. If you have any other comments or questions about Monster Truck engines, you can write me, care of the United States Hot Rod Association.
And medicine matchup. The first one we're going to see, Eldon out of Granite City, Illinois. He goes up against Don Van Loo out of Jefferson City, Missouri. Big Dodge going up against the world champion Chevy. Now the officials will signify that they are staged by a clenched fist. Then a thumbs up from each driver signifies they're ready. Green light, kiss them a go. And Taurus off to a real quick lead. Bad Medicine has all sorts of problems as he dive bombs over the car. Taurus has won the race before Bad Medicine gets a chance to make the turn. And Don Van Loo has to stop, back up, and turn around before he can continue the race. Watch this dive bomb. Over the cars, and boom. How he pulled that truck out of it, I'll never know. A lot of driving experience keeping that truck together. Don Van Loo did a great job in Bad Medicine. Looked like he was over, and that was the end of him, but he held it on. Meanwhile, Eldon Depew never looked back. That's why Taurus is the world champion. He goes into this turn being ever so mindful of the fact that this concrete gets very slippery on these turns. A flawless turn. He looks over. He does not even see the competition over the hill. And all he can see now is victory lane. Your winner, Eldon Depew.
I just play it by ear. Every run I play it by ear, you know, and never underestimate my competitor.
All right, Eldon Depew, congratulations and good luck to you in the final.
Thank you.
We know now that Taurus is going to be in the finals. But who's he going to be up against? It could very well be this truck. King Crunch, the truck out of Spring, Texas, piloted by Rob Grossman. Earlier, Rob spoke with Jim Clark about strategy here in New Orleans.
Mostly to stay off the brake. The more momentum you got, the easier and the faster you're going to go.
How do you like the track here in the Superdome?
I love it. It's a nice track.
Rob Grossman and King Crunch would like to go against Taurus in the finals, but first, he's got to get past Bigfoot. And Ron Bachman spoke about his strategy with Jim Clark.
A little bit better. We're still working on some stuff on the takeoff to the first set of cars. If we can get that down pretty good, we have the turn pretty good. Just need to get a little bit quicker off the red to green. That's just, I don't know, slow on my part.
So Ron and Rob, King Crunch and Bigfoot set to go here in the Superdome. Off the line, King Crunch takes advantage of a problem that Bigfoot has over that first set of cars. Rob Grossman, a great shot of him as he goes around the turn. It's going to be neck and neck, and King Crunch pulls out in front. And Rob Grossman takes advantage of problems Bigfoot has early in the run and sails on to victory. The Auto Value King Crunch is indeed your winner and will take on the world champion Taurus in our Monster Truck Challenge final. Around the turn he goes now. It's very, very interesting to point out that this near lane has been very, very friendly to the trucks, while that far lane has caused a lot of problems, causing them to bounce all over the place. And this is where you can see this bouncy problem. Bigfoot is up and over. The rear end comes up, and instead of just going on, Ron has to back out of it and let the truck settle down before he can move on. He's trying to catch up right here, and he's going into this little hill that seems to be sending everybody off to the side. And boom, bouncy, bouncy. He's out of shape when he goes over the cars. Meanwhile, King Crunch has gone across the finish line. King Crunch and Taurus will be in your final. You can see where it happens right here. King Crunch sails across. Bigfoot has lots of problems, bouncing around. He's playing catch-up right here. A good turn for both these drivers. And Bigfoot is still in the race at this point. King Crunch goes over the hill. Ron gets thrown all over the place, and Bigfoot, and that's all she wrote. King Crunch, your winner. The fans here in New Orleans are loving this U.S. Hot Rod Association Monster Truck Challenge. And the championship will pit Taurus against King Crunch. But while those two are cooling down to prepare for the championship, when ESPN's Monster Truck Challenge returns, we'll take you to the State Fairgrounds Arena in Oklahoma City to watch the Monsters run. Here's Fairly Tame, Doug Spanier, the big truck out of Albany, Minnesota. Jim Thomas is here with the Master of Disaster, the Auto Value King Crunch, and Rob Grossman. Barefoot, Bad Medicine, and the Auto Value Racer, that brand new truck driven by Scott Stevens. Round number one pairings will pit these two trucks. Fairly Tame with Doug Spanier aboard the big blue Ford as he goes against Scott Stevens and that brand new Auto Value Racer. Round number one pairings side by side. Here they go. Very hard to tell. It looks as though the racer may have won it. Scott Stevens may have done it. On the replay. Side by side, the Auto Value Racer pulls out, and yes, a big lead there for the racer. Here's Don Van Loo, the big Dodge, Bad Medicine. He's going up against this truck, Jim Thomas and the Master of Disaster. Side by side, they wait for the light. There they go. And the Dodge smokes the big red Ford. Don Van Loo and Bad Medicine gets the win. There is no question on this one. Great reaction time off the light. He's got it. He's got it. Never stopped to look back. Here's Barefoot. Doug Harlan aboard the Barefoot truck. He goes against Rob Grossman and King Crunch. King Crunch out of Spring, Texas. Barefoot, King Crunch, side by side. And it looks as though the auto value King Crunch is the winner. You can see it right here. Yes, King Crunch takes the win. He goes on to round number 2, and we're ready for round number 2. Fairly taming King Crunch. Oh, talk about a close one. He had to pull that one out of his hat. Your winner, King Crunch. Don Van Leeuwen, Bad Medicine, goes against the auto value racer of Scott Stevens. Scott Stevens, hey, he almost jumped the light. He stopped, but then he got a little skittish, and Don Van Leeuwen took advantage of that. Bad Medicine gets the win. Here's King Crunch and Rob Grossman. He's going against Bad Medicine in our final. One's going to take home all the marbles here at the Oklahoma State Fairgrounds. Oh, man, was that close. Woo! Was that a close one? Side by side, look at this. Over the line by inches. Your winner, Don Van Leeuwen, Bad Medicine. You, the reigning world champion, or Rob Grossman and King Crunch. Now, Eldon Depew is driving Taurus for Jackie Willman, and he shares his strategy with Jim Clark.
Just got to get past that corner. If I can get over the first set smooth and get into the corner nice and tight and hammer from there, I win the race.
Rob Grossman in the King Crunch, and he's going up against the world champion. How does he feel?
I'm impressed. I hope we do good. This is my first time with Taurus. I hadn't drove a truck in over 4 years, and I'm pretty happy about it myself.
They're at the line. Taurus and King Crunch side by side in New Orleans. Who's going to be the winner? We're about to find out. Taurus out to an early lead. Remember, King Crunch is over in that tough lane. That's the lane that's been sending everybody sky high, and King Crunch is, in fact, having trouble over there. Look at this. Taurus sweeps the entire set of cars, and your winner is Taurus. Eldon Depew brings home another championship for Taurus. And, man, is he happy about it. Look at him go. Taurus takes it home and takes all the marbles here in the Superdome in New Orleans. The world champion, Taurus, Eldon Depew, handling the driving duties for Jackie Willman, takes on this big, big win. He waves to the crowd. He's being introduced as the champion. And how did he get here? Well, let's take a look. Off the line, he had this truck dialed in perfectly, and of course he had the good lane. He comes down, around, he negotiates this turn without much problem at all. He looks to see that there's some problem over in the King Crunch ramp, and he just brings it on home. It would have been nice for Rob Grossman if he had had that easy a ride, but it didn't happen for him. Stuck in that lane that's been giving everybody trouble all night long. This is the trouble point. Look at this. The rear end comes up. He bounces around. He's out of shape. He literally has to back out of it to negotiate this turn. By then, he's already lost the race. He comes down, brings it over, and it's that first set of cars that caused problems for everybody tonight and took that championship away from King Crunch. Jim Clark is standing by with your champion, Taurus.
All right, Eldon Depew, your big winner here at the Superdome. How's it feel?
Feels great.
All right, everything go the way you planned tonight?
Yeah, everything was nice and smooth. You know, I took the corner a little wide here, thought that was a mistake, but I seen he was having trouble too, so I just hit her to the floor.
All right, we'll go out and celebrate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what a great town to celebrate in. New Orleans, Louisiana, your winner in the Superdome, Taurus and Eldon Depew. One more look at our U.S. Hot Rod Association Monster Truck Challenge Final. Stuck over in that far lane. King Crunch has all sorts of problems. the world champion Taurus and Eldon Depew around the turn first, and he's heading home. He is out of there. Into that winner's circle. Taurus does it in New Orleans. Eldon Depew substituting for the world champion Jackie Willman. And he does a great job. There's no problem at all keeping this truck running and keeping this truck winning. What a great job here in the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. And there's the story. Your winner, it was all Taurus.